Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you guys for being here for another panel. This one is going to be all about successes and failures. So we're going to get a little bit personal on this one. So just open up as much as you want, as much as you can, be as honest and transparent as possible. I think our students can learn a lot from our failures. I know I personally learned a lot from a failure. And speaking of which, let's talk about one of my failures really quick, just to sort of set the stage. Back when I was working at PetSmart, I was working on a brand called Arcadia Trail. And as you're iterating, as you're going through the project, you have multiple iterations of a logo. And just so happened that the one that the stakeholders picked was one that I had created, and unbeknownst to me, it was just a little too close to another existing brand mark. I had no idea. I was not inspired by this brand mark, but it was found as our brand team was going out into the world and just researching. And let me tell you the difficult conversation I had about that project. It was not easy. It was not comfortable. It sucked, to say the least. So I'm hoping we can have a few of those conversations. And I mean, what I learned about that is just be a little bit more careful, do some due diligence, go look up a bunch of things that may not even be related or relevant to the work that you're doing, and be careful what you're inspired by, right? So let's talk about that a little bit, shall we? All right, Amy, in a corporate environment, what does success look like? Let's start with success. What does success look like in a corporate environment?
In a corporate environment, obviously you're getting along with your corporate cohort. You're able to turn around all the work that you need to in a timely manner. And whatever the timeline is for in-house in the NFL, it's whatever the season and off-season requires. But really it's being able to, whatever department requests anything, being able to take that request, apply the design principles that you know, zhuzh it up based on how your brand is for your particular NFL team, and then execute it well.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
And how do you personally define failure, particularly when your creative work doesn't land as maybe you expected?
How would I personally define my failure
Yeah.
of that? That would be it. Like if it doesn't land, and you know, one of the things we always say, especially when you're building social media graphics, don't read the comments. Never read the comments, because that's the first place you'll see a lot of the feedback. And a lot of people at work will be the ones to gracefully give you that feedback. But the real feedback is in the comments.
Yeah.
And so whether something that sticks or doesn't stick, if it doesn't stick, I want to know why it didn't, why it missed the mark, and how it could be better. What's hard is you have those other teams that are also doing very similar things. And so their feedback, those creative teams' feedback as well from the other teams is really important as well. So if that also comes back, after a while, if multiple people are saying the same thing, it's time to reevaluate.
Common denominator sort of problem.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Jen, how do you distinguish between a tough client project and a failed one?
I think unless you make a really bad financial fuck up, nothing is really a failure when it comes to a difficult project, because even a hard reset, everything you did was wrong, start over, means you're probably going to get to something better. Yeah. You may not like it in the moment, but I can literally 0% of the time have I ever had to start something over and thought to myself, nope, I still like the old one better. Like, you're going to push yourself harder. You're going to have, sometimes you didn't have the right information the first time. Failure wasn't even on your part. Client didn't know what they didn't know, or you just didn't have the right parameters yet. So the work is always going to be better if you push yourself and you have it through that lens and don't view it as a failure. That's not to say you can't fail, like I said. Cost yourself a client, cost yourself some money, whatever the case is. Obviously that's a different story, but unless that's the case, don't view it as a failure.
Yeah, and I think there's something important that you mentioned there, which is starting over. Sometimes I tell my students that if you pick up a turd, you can polish it to the point where it looks like a diamond, but at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you still polished a turd.
That's a stinky diamond.
That's a
Yeah.
stinky diamond. But I think that you have to know when you're polishing a turd, and sometimes that can take a little bit of time to navigate.
Right.
Thank you. And what does success feel like in a more high-paced, fast-paced agency environment where maybe those celebratory moments are there and then gone?
Yeah.
Fleeting.
I'm going to say it's the little wins. So, I mean, obviously, we all want the trifecta of we had an awesome idea that we loved, that the client bought off on, and it made us a bunch of money. Everyone wants that. They are so rare. They are few and far between. Everyone is very stingy with their budgets. Things get difficult. But so you can take your little wins every day. Did you get to concept for 3 days instead of 2 hours? Did you get to present 3 concepts instead of 2? Did you get to, convince the client to give you a little more time and explore further? Like, these things feed the creative soul when the work itself isn't always as sexy as you want it to be.
Yeah.
And same thing with like interpersonal stuff. Like, if culture is good at your company, go to the parties, go to the philanthropic events, take
training
advantage. Yeah, take advantage of the perks. If you have flex PTO, go on a freaking vacation. Like, you're not a martyr for not doing that. Like, you just take the little wins where you can, because the stuff you don't have control over will just eat away at your soul if you let it.
I like that. You're not a martyr for taking vacation. I think that's important
It is,
for
yes.
people to hear these days, particularly in an agency environment. Agency depending.
Right. Yes. Can always speak
but
for mine.
No, thank you. Eric, as a freelancer, you sort of carry the full weight of success and failure of your business. How do you define them on your own terms?
Well, the analytics can sometimes tell you if you're reaching customers or if you're, producing things that people enjoy. That's a good measure of input. I think a lot of it for me is data. I find myself lately looking at data differently.
Yeah.
I fired some shots at AI earlier, which I've been known to do, but one of the good things about it is that you can get a lot of data
Yeah.
rapidly from it.
Yeah.
So I have looked at a lot of that and trying to research my market, trying to research, on the one hand, market research is really important and it helps to equal more success. But on the other hand, too, it can sometimes be a distraction because how do I know what people want at the end of the day? Like, I'm fickle. One day I like Netflix, and the next I don't. So, it's one of these things where a lot of the successes for me are based on gathering information and making good decisions in the moment.
Yeah. And how do you move forward when something doesn't maybe go as planned?
Yeah, I've had some failures. One particular example is just in the area of ordering product. As a small publisher, some printers around town look at you like, okay, so how many thousands of this would you like to order? And I look at them like, well, I only want 250 right now. And in 6 months, I'll need another 250. And they look at me like they don't know how to serve my needs. So I have been conned into, kind of conned into ordering more of something because, I can get my price per unit down. And before I know it, it was a big mistake because now I got to store that stuff. So some of the failures that you make as a freelancer entrepreneur can be very, very front and center in your mind all the time.
Yeah.
Now I have to walk around with those 1,000 units in my head that I still have some of, after 8-10 years. So
And if you don't mind sharing, how much did those 100,000 units cost?
1,000 units.
1,000 units.
like,
I'm sorry.
dang.
I'm sorry. Yeah. How much did those cost?
About $9,000. Yeah.
Wow. And that is not anyone backing you up financially. That is your money going out the door to.
And that's now a 15-year-old mistake that I learned from. Now, I won't let a printer talk me into ordering more units. I'd rather have my supporters or customers know Yeah, Eric's stuff, we pay a little more for it, but it's because he makes it and it doesn't sit on a shelf.
Yep. I think that's really wise advice.
Yeah.
Because I think we've all maybe been heckled by a printer at one time. Corey, in the nonprofit world, how do you measure success when you're designing for a mission rather than maybe money?
I guess I don't know if I make a distinction between nonprofit designing. I just try to make every project as good as it can be, you know? I don't know if that's the greatest answer in the world.
I like it.
But yeah, I think design is kind of a pretty high calling, and I always want to give the client more than what they paid for or expected. And so I don't really make a distinction between nonprofit, B2B, B2C. I kind of just make everything as good as the project will allow.
Yeah, I like that. Sort of set the bar high. I like to tell my students, overpromise, overdeliver. And I think that speaks to what you were saying there. And what does it feel like to fall short when the goal is community driven?
There's probably not a lot worse than that, because you are letting an entire community down. Or, you know, and sometimes it takes a lot to get that back. When you lose ground on something like that, it's very difficult to crawl yourself out of that.
Yeah.
There's so many things that go into it. So to me, that's a tough one.
Trust is sort of easily lost, hard earned.
Yeah, and that's why, again, the level of personal sacrifice that it takes to do something significant is stressful.
Yeah.
You know.
Awesome. Well, that is the end of round one. Let's move into round two here. Amy, can you share a moment in your career that felt like a failure at the time, but ultimately taught you something essential about yourself or your work?
Yeah. I said that really fast. I'm like, oh, well, I have a few. I just pull this out of my pocket. I have found workflows for me, especially in-house, are so important. Since, again, that in-house setup and how, you know, oh, we have finance, we have HR, we have business development, and they all work differently. They're all coming to creative. So having multiple workflows for multiple departments was something that I didn't think that I would have to have, because it was like, no, this is just how I do it. But then having a workflow between my boss and I, that was something that I found, not because of just our relationship, our working relationship. They were just things that for him, certain executives only went to him. And that made his plate overly full. He didn't even have a plate, he had a buffet. So he had a lot, and there were only people that would come to me for things. They're like, no, Mike we don't want to talk to Mike. Or the Amy's busy, or or like he didn't have, he doesn't have a kid, he's not married. So for me, it was like, oh, Amy's out, vice versa.
Yeah.
So one of the mistakes that he had was with his buffet, he would not delegate all the time. He was like, no, I'd have enough time to get it done, or, your kid is in her third play or something. So he'd be like, no, I got it. But then because our relationship we could each work independently, not all the time did we have to collaborate on things. Like, oh, you got that? Well, I got this. And then we'll meet up at the end, talk about it, and that's it. So this one particular instance was, again, it has to do with tickets, was the tickets that needed to be printed, but they were late. And he had already spoken with the printer about them being late, and he was supposed to originally send them. But then he was like, I'm not going to have time to do it. We had something else coming up that he had to focus on for Michael Bidwell, so that came first. So we did not have a working process between us. And I didn't have a process for the tickets. And there's thousands of them. And there's a map, well, the printed ones, there's a map on the back, and they have zones, and then they have, the foil, and then they have the tearaway piece, and they all went in a box. And so the process that I had set up for myself did not work for the tickets. And so a date got duplicated, and that went to print.
Oops.
And he did not double check them.
Oops.
Because he's like, you have it, why do I need to double check it? But because the time frame was so fast, Literally, it was like, you're going to be here all Thursday and into Friday doing these tickets. And so it didn't get double checked. So for me, that was extremely embarrassing because in the history of the Cardinals, how many times have they had to be like, just kidding, the game is not that day. It's actually going to be on the next Sunday. So, and then all of those tickets had to be reprinted. Like that, and so for me, I was like, I got to come up with a better workflow.
Do you have a figure on how much that reprint
I
cost?
did not ask.
No? Nor am I sure did you want to.
Look, I'm crazy. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
I did not ask. So, but for me, it was extremely embarrassing, and you know, they expect perfection. They don't want you to. You're like, it went to print. Like, how did it get to print? But then looking back at it, just our processes and how we communicated with each other, and how I get thrown into projects, how I assess those before I start working with something that I said, okay, I need to make a change on this.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing. Jen, have you ever had your team produce incredible work that the client just did not connect with?
Yes, often. But one of the larger examples of it is we have a client that comes to us about every 3 years to do a very large it's basically their entire campaign that's going to run for the next 3 years. They sell bathroom remodel services. And this particular time, they came to us and said, we want to just upend everything. We're sick of being viewed as ABC. We want to break the mold, elevate ourselves, all this kind of stuff.
Good old shakedown.
Yes. We were very excited by this. Like, who doesn't love to have the reins taken off, basically? So we listened to a creative director who had a very firm opinion on what we should do. He felt like he knew better than the client. They say they want to take all the parameters off, but like they don't really know. So keep it in this space over here. And we did, and we came up with work that we thought was really great and we really loved. We presented it, and it was almost embarrassing. The client's like, this is barely an evolution of what we already have. And like, it's great you're so passionate about it, but like, what the fuck just happened? And it was devastating in the moment. It was frustrating because I feel like we all kind of felt that way too. We're like, why did we do this? We knew better. But the fact that we thought we had still accomplished it, even with those parameters, was like, oh, that's extra icky. Like, oh, dang it, it sucked. And then it sucked double when the client called us out on it. So not a fun example of it, but probably one of the larger ones that I've dealt with.
Yeah, and what did you or maybe the team learn from that? Like, yeah, the moment sucked, but what did you take forward from that?
I personally took, because at that point I was also a senior level creative on that team. And I was like, just because he's one level above me doesn't mean he's right. So that's an example of just the right amount of ego. Don't just like fall back and let something happen when you know it's not right. So I myself now will always push my internal team, respectfully, professionally, all of that. But I'm not going to let that happen again. But kind of going back to what I said earlier, where you very rarely produce worse work when you have to start over. The stuff that came out of us next when we're like, okay, now we're really outside the box, was incredible. It was, they had a hard time choosing. They almost went with a really extreme version, which would have been so fun to produce. They scared themselves a little bit. They're like, our stakeholders aren't going to allow that. But like what we ended up with, we were so proud of. And it was nowhere in the realm of where we were that first round.
That's
So,
always really inspiring.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't know how much leash you have until you
Right.
so,
And we've
eventually
learned.
you'll choke yourself on it, but you know where to be at that point.
We've learned this philosophy of as long as you give them what they asked for in some capacity, you can also give them something they didn't. And if it's good and you firmly believe it's the right decision, they'll probably go with that. They'll be like, thank you very much for not discrediting my request. And again, take that with a grain of salt because sometimes a client really doesn't. This kind of goes to what you were talking about. Sometimes they just don't know, and you're not going to produce bad work just because they asked you to. Push on that when you need to.
Absolutely.
But then, a lot of times it will come back to like, well, just do what we say.
And I think the client sometimes also respects when you're like, I'm doing this for you.
Right. We're not being stubborn for no reason. Like, this is for your benefit, I promise.
No, I love all of that. Thank you so much. Eric, can you tell us about a project that you either regret taking or that you weren't going to take but decided to anyways?
Yeah. I don't want
I'm assuming you're going through your Rolodex at this point.
Yeah, did you see that?
Not that our students know what a Rolodex is.
Some might.
Your Google Drive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Google
exactly.
Drive.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, I'll stop short of naming names, but in terms of, it was a regional brand that an agency called me up. I had done work for this agency, and they had a customer, a client, and they wanted me to come back to do something as an affinity product they do every year, and they wanted me to work with them again, illustration-wise. And I said, well, I want to do it, but I'll need I have a compressed timeline. It looks like you guys do too. If we can get it done before this date, then I'm available to you. But at that date, I got to switch to a different client need.
Sounds like this client may have run you ragged for a little while on a previous project.
Yeah, but we got through that one,
Yeah.
and it was a good result, at least for both parties. But on this other one, I was hesitant to take it on. I took it on though because this agency was friendly to me, and I liked them. And
Yeah.
but ultimately, it didn't work out because the client didn't respect the timelines. And that's the other thing too is like message for your students as they work with people, like timeliness is a two-way street. If your client can't get you what you need to do what you need to do, that is them not being timely. And deadlines go both ways. One concession in one direction means a concession in the opposite direction, and both of those things got to meet for a good outcome. So we parted ways, but it was all fine, and they found someone else to pick up my sketches and realize them. But
Oops.
hey, I set my guidelines and my boundaries, and I had to hold to them, but it didn't feel good to not get that done.
Yeah. Very nice. And you mentioned about timelines go both ways. I tell my students that the way economics works, there's time, cost, and quality. You can pick two, but you can't have all three. And the two you probably should pick are cost and quality. You want to get paid what you're worth, and you want to do the good work. So someone's got to give on the timeline. And I think that's really good advice there. Corey, tell us about a moment that may not have been a textbook success, but confirmed for you why nonprofit work matters.
It would probably be, I don't know if I have it, because it's not in the realm of design.
Okay.
I think it's
I think that's
it's
fine.
in the realm of managing people.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Like, I think there are things that happen where they don't happen the way you want them to, or people didn't show up to that to that event in the numbers you wanted them to, but you saw the people who were pulling it off rise to the occasion. And again, it just comes back to that, putting people in environments where they can succeed. And to succeed, you've got to fail. And they come back to the next one a little bit more prepared for the realities of the outcome. And that's the first thing that comes to mind.
I love it. I love it. All right, we're going to close this one out, and we're going to be really, really quick about it. So just one word, 2 word answers, just off the top of the head. And I'm going to go down the row and just get each of you. So Amy, what advice would you give a design student who's afraid of failing on their first real world project?
Fail.
Fail. Love it. Jen?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Eric?
Get over it.
Love it. Corey?
Yeah, just get your hands dirty. And if you're going to fail, you might as well swing for the fences.
Yeah.
Yeah, fail big.
Fail big.
Fail big. I like it. Fall on your face, get a few bumps and bruises. Why is collaboration with your peers so important?
Growth.
Yeah. It's how you learn and get better.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, I'd rather be liked than be right. So, yeah.
I love it. Corey?
I said it earlier, the less we need each other, the worse the world gets.
I think that's really great. Last one, let's talk about critique a little bit. What's one mindset shift or strategy that has helped you take critique without letting it derail your confidence or your process?
Oh, the sandwich. I'm
Explain.
always thinking about food. Your girl loved to eat.
compliment
It's the compliment
Yeah.
sandwich, yeah. So it's, hey, you did this really good. in the middle, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, baby, you need to do a little, get some help there, and then compliment it with something nice again.
I call that the shit sandwich because what's in the middle is shit, but on the outside is compliments.
I see, I just avoided the middle.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those are compliments.
No, I like it. Jen, what's one mindset shift or strategy that's helped you take critique without letting it derail your confidence or process?
I think I mentioned it earlier, but just figuring out how to not tie your worth to your work. It's something you do, it's not something you are. And for creatives and artists in particular, that line gets blurred, but you're not, and the next thing you create will be better, so it'll be okay.
I love it. I love it. Eric, one mindset shift?
I had a mentor at Gore. Her name was Terry. She was like 10 years older than me, and she was just awesome. And she told me one time, your value is never up for debate. Don't let anyone make you feel that you're not valuable.
Yeah.
So it's really about personal esteem, like being okay with your contributions at some point, knowing that you're working your hardest. If you're working your hardest, you can be okay with that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And Corey, what about you?
Critique seems to be so ubiquitous in our industry, it's weird that we have a term for it. So, to be flippant, it would be do not work at McDonald's if you don't want to flip hamburgers. It's just the air we breathe,
Yeah.
so it's not even a thing in my world.
Yeah.
We
love
just
it.
talk about how things work and how things don't work, and the goal is just to get to the solution.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I don't even like the word critique.
I love it. And I think we can probably all answer this together. How seriously should our students take critique and feedback when it's given to them? Yeah?
Yeah, just take it.
Maybe do that.
Yeah.
That might be a thing you should try.
If you want to grow,
Yeah.
take it.
All right.
You know, accept it.
Very nice.
Don't fall in love with any of your work.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Corey, anything?
A saying comes to mind, we're not making art, everything you do is going to be in the trash next week.
I love it.
So don't get too
Sort
attached.
of the vicious cycle.
I like how he gave you until next week.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
I like
right
it.
now.
And I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for doing
Any
this.
last words that you think our students need to know that we didn't cover?
Listen to this guy. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
She was not paid to say that.
listen to your instructor. I think too, like some of us, we're out here working. For me personally, I belong to this area and I want to make my career here, and I'm going to keep doing that. So, you know, your students can always reach out to the people in their community if they have a sincere question. And I think I can speak for anyone that we're always willing to give perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Community is usually the answer.
Yes, always return to your community. Find ways to get involved. It's a good way to find a mentor.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.